her up. I went on Facebook. I went on Twitter. The last thing I could see was posted in 2012. I Googled what happened to Jessica Campbell from Election, and I Googled it. And in 2012, someone posted an update on Facebook just saying that someone had posted something negative about her because she played a hermaphrodite on Freaks and Geeks. So someone said a very negative comment about that on the page, and they deleted it. But that was 7 years ago.
HuffPost tried to get a comment from her on their 15-year oral history that I read for this, and she just didn't comment. She's out of it. She doesn't care. She doesn't be in it anymore.
She's probably doing fine what she's doing. I mean,
this industry is a pain in the ass.
It can be.
It's interesting how people are like, she dropped out of industry and failed. No, she probably just wanted to be home. And
yeah, she probably just wanted a different life for herself. I'm sure she's doing fine. She's, doing whatever. Maybe she's a teacher now. That happens to a lot of people.
I do think what I like about this movie, though, is so I taught for a long time, and I currently teach. And the downtime before his classes start, and the interactions with the students. This movie, I guess, as far as teaching goes, he doesn't put on a red leather jacket and show them karate moves. This seems like a real school, and because they cast real actors or real teachers. But I like that about it. The dress and their hairstyles that he uses. Alexander Payne talked about this in the commentary. Is that he got a lot of flack for that, but he said that he got the look of all the teachers from just general observation from whenever he did scouting. So he said there was a lot of teachers with short sleeves and wearing ties, and that he said the ties never matched the shirts. Yep.
And he said there was a lot of Dockers and Dexter shoes.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty interesting. He specifically said that. But he's like, also he wanted to give the character of Jim McAllister look like he got a bad haircut, but he couldn't afford to get a good one. So he's just waiting for his hair to grow out. So he said it's maybe 2 months ago he got a bad haircut, and now he's just waiting for it to grow out.
Oh, that's funny.
Which is interesting because that's kind of what he looks like. But he said this is all from just general observation. It was not a direct attack on teachers or how they're supposed to dress. But it's like, I remember when I was in high school, it's kind of what everybody looked like. But then again,
Oh, dude, I have pictures with me of short sleeve button up shirts and a tie that doesn't match.
Yeah.
That was the fashion at the time. In the 90s.
Yeah. Waiting for that one to come back.
Oh, heck no. So I have a question. Pears, apples, bananas, or oranges? Which one would you eat? You have a choice of 4.
Apple.
Apple?
Or banana. Depends on how I'm feeling. I'm going to lean towards the apple.
You can only have one for the rest of your life.
Banana.
I put it in my morning shake. And you can put bananas and peanut butter, right?
So what I'm trying to say, Kelly, is can you go downstairs and make my shake?
Yeah.
Just gave
I don't put apples in my protein shakes. The consistency of the banana. And protein... So Adam Hodgins of this podcast, we were doing a thing, and he was talking about a baseball player who played for Toronto, and he eats 3 bananas a day.
Holy smokes.
And there's an interview, Adam sent this to me, this baseball player played for Toronto, and he's like, I eat 3 bananas a day because you never see a monkey cramping up, and they eat bananas. So he eats 3 bananas a day.
I don't know if I'd rely that heavily on bananas.
I'll put it in my morning shakes, and I will never have that.
Does it work?
Yeah, listen, man, I haven't had a cramp since 86. But what do you think about Chris Klein in this movie? I think he really captured him perfectly. Like Thomas Hayden Church in Sideways, which he also directed.
And he also, Alexander Payne and Tim Taylor both got an Oscar for that.
I mean, you watch, The Descendants, the way they were able to get Clooney. And then you watch Nebraska, the way that they had Will Forte. I think they can handle these actors really good, but I thought Chris Klein's brand of earnestness worked perfectly in this movie.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, yeah, he definitely, he knows who the character is, that he's very, just kind of, like I said, he's kind and welcoming, and he just believes in the good of people. He even says, deep down inside, they really mean well, but they may put up a front, but they're good people.
I gotta say, though, this performance by Reese Witherspoon, I saw, Freeway before this, that crazy movie with Kiefer Sutherland.
What was the movie the 2 movies that she most notably did before this was she was in Fear.
Fear, oh yeah.
And God, I love that movie so much. In Pleasantville, where she plays kind of like the direct opposite of who she is, the direct opposite of who she is in Fear. Yeah. And then she did Pleasantville, which I love that movie so much. That movie should be celebrated more than what it is.
Tobey Maguire, Paul Walker is in it.
Yeah, that's right. He is in that. Yeah. That is such a brilliant movie.
My boy JD, Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, Jeff Daniels. I love his character too. But yeah, she was in that, and then she did this. But she also did a TV movie, which is where the director actually noted her from in the commentary. But then she did this movie.
This is we haven't really covered it enough, but this is a very good performance.
Oh, absolutely.
Reese Witherspoon, she's a chameleon. If you think about Legally Blonde, Fear, Pleasantville, this, Walk the Line,
Devil's Knot.
Yeah, she can really. She's a very good actress.
She has a lot of range, and it really shows that she's really good at what she does.
And this movie, just her body language, her
you
posture.
believe that she is like this kind of innocent 17, maybe 18-year-old.
Yeah. No, I do have a question, though. That scene where she talks to Broderick, and she is saying we're going to have to spend a lot of time to be really close to each other the next year.
Oh, she's definitely coming on to me.
Yeah, because during that scene, she's playing with the those windows down, and she's playing with the two rubber pieces in between with like her finger between it. Oh. And did you notice that?
Yeah. He talks about that in the commentary.
Yeah, and so, and then he's just kind of, I hate her now, right? So she was really trying to
come on to him, and even Alexander talks about in the commentary about when they're in the same room together, and she's saying, Matthew Broderick is telling her that he knows that basically she destroyed all the posters, and she's saying she didn't do it because there's no proof.
I want my lawyer.
And he says that she's fighting and flirting with him. It's like a fight flirt. So it's like she's saying to him, she's like, and there's certain teachers who can't get their wives pregnant.
Yeah.
So it's basically like she's saying like, it's okay for us to do it because there won't be any like there's no way that I'll be able to expose.
I thought
it was the direct opposite.
Yeah, I thought she was going at him like you can't get your wife.
No, she was
the thing of a man, right? Like
yeah, she was like cutting him down, but at the same time she's saying like, so it's okay for us to do this. And I was like, wow, I did not catch that at all. But he says that in the commentary. I was really blown away with that. So if you rewatch that scene, you can get that sense that she's fighting him, but at the same time, she's like, we are spending a lot of time together, and we will have to spend a lot of time together. So why don't we just get this out in the air?
Jeez Louise.
Because she's already done it once. Yeah. So she knows that. She knows that he knows that.
She didn't tell on him either. The mom found the card, right?
I honestly, I can't remember that scene, but I do remember that he has the card and he's like, oh, it's the mom.
Let's move away. And I do think, I like when she says, he just became too wishy-washy.
Yeah, it's interesting because...
And he would have gotten away with it.
If it weren't for that meddling kid.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because she seems like she would have wanted to be with him.
Yeah.
And even at the end, she says, I often think about him. And it's he's sitting there doing the same exact thing as Kurtwood Smith was doing in Citizen Ruth. But it's interesting because most of the time in these situations, the student thinks of as the adult as a creepy character or like a threatening person later on in life. They don't normally talk about like, well, maybe things could have worked out between us. And I don't, I kind of wonder what it was like. I mean,
how much is that the truth of her narration? Do you think that's her earnestness? Or do you think when Broderick narrates things, you're like, this guy isn't telling the truth?
I don't, you never really know. And that's what I like about this is you don't know who's lying, who's full of shit, who's telling the truth. Are they just acting out of anger? Because you totally sympathize a little bit with Jim McAllister whenever he says, who the F does she think she is? And you're like, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. But, a little bit, not a whole lot, but
Yeah. He's just such a dirtbag though.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. Like,
where he goes down to the basement.
Do you know who played the character in the porno?
The casting manager.
The extras casting guy. I thought that was brilliant.
Don't worry about the coach. They establish him as a very interesting character, McAllister. He obviously wants nothing to do with like an affair with any students. Yeah. But he's still a dirtbag. Like he's
a dirtbag in his own right. He would never, I don't think he would ever, unless he was pushed, which is what happens. But he would never sleep with his students.
No.
He would never do anything to harm them. And he's a good teacher. He would be the person that it looks like he would never, I guess you'd say, act out of anger unless he had to, which is good.
And he saw her jumping in the air. That's why he threw those things away.
And let's talk about that for a minute, because I tell you what, he would have got away with that shit if he would have done the smart thing and just pocketed them.
Yeah.
I was like, when I showed this to my girlfriend, and she was like, "Oh, he's gonna get busted." I'm like, and if he would have done the smart thing and just act like he was coughing and then like put him in his sock.
Yep.
He would have got away with that. But, and then he got busted by the janitor because the janitor saw him throwing away the Chinese food and it hit the floor and he didn't clean it up.
I mean, if Chris Klein would have voted for himself, he would have won.
And that's another thing too, because he feels bad. That's how much of an honest guy he is. He feels bad about voting for himself. So it's like, well, yeah, like that shows how much of a good guy Chris Klein's character really was.
I guess for me though, I have a tough time with people like Ebert in his review. He was pretty harsh on Tracy, saying it like how her character was, but she's still a 17-year-old kid. I mean, when you're a high schooler, I mean, there definitely are jerk high schoolers for sure, but I think growing up with a single mom who hands her pills, who probably controls most of the stuff she does, gives her a heavy drive, grows up on the other side of town, has a big thing on her shoulder. I don't think she's...
Do you think her husband left her, or she left her husband?
I have no idea.
I think that she left her husband because he wasn't good enough.
Maybe.
But I think so, because that's the I mean, she's a strong, independent woman. She writes letters to other strong, independent women asking them for advice.
Yeah.
And then she's trying to make her daughter into a strong, independent woman too.
Yeah.
And I think that she probably saw her husband and was kind of like lesser and was like, well, you're no longer the person I thought you were. I'm now going to take our daughter and we're going to leave.
They put up walls, the two of them, though. I think masking that, and I guess I just feel weird with people saying, "Oh, Tracy Flick is such a I don't know."
I don't think I've read too many negative things.
Oh, did you? Yeah,
I didn't read too many because it's kind of like, well, who do you root for in this movie?
Yeah.
I mean, like I said before, I think Tammy's probably the only one that I would say is the best, the kind of the best out of all of them.
She goes to Catholic school and loves it.
Yeah, I love that. She's like, all those like love scenes were shot by Jim Taylor and Alexander Payne.
Oh, really?
On 16mm camera, because he said,
"Oh, that's fun."
He said that he felt that in movies when they show the two people are in love, that it reminded him of like the 1960s movies where everything was in like 16mm and they just kind of did quick shots. Like they go to the zoo and you see the monkey climbing up the tree. And they're like, oh, ha, ha, that's so much fun. And then it shows them on the swing sets. And it's like, I got that same vibe too. Speaking of the Roger Ebert review, he did give this 3.5 stars.
No, he loved it.
He was a big fan. And he said, what sets this film aside from recent high school movies is that it doesn't limit itself to the view of teenagers. It sees, as he saw her as the antagonist, Tracy through the eyes of the teacher who has had enough of her.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's a teenage film, but it's more for adults.
I guess as a teacher, you have a student who will answer every question, but their answers aren't what you're always looking for because they're the exact definition. Hey, so what is freedom? Oh, freedom, according to Merriam-Webster dictionary, is this. It's like, well, no, give me a real world example, and they're like, well, I just told you what it is.
Yeah, and we all knew people like that. Yeah. There was always that. There was always a flick in our class, and they're still there to this day. It's kind of like what he says. No matter what age you are, you're always going to have the same thing over and over again. It's like, yeah, it's pretty true.
Any final thoughts? Any other thoughts about this movie?
I wanted to talk briefly about James Glennon, who was sadly passed away in 2006, but he was the cinematographer on this. His father was Burt Glennon, who taught him everything that he knows. He taught all of his sons, actually, everything that he knows.
That's nice.
His father, Burt, was a cinematographer back in silent films, also in black and white films. He just a few films that we would know Burt from would be Stagecoach. They died with their boots on.
Wow, Stagecoach.
Yeah, right. And tons and tons of westerns from the 50s and 60s.
Shot so.
But James,
did he walk? So this is a callback to our last podcast. Do you think he walked around on set?
I think whenever he did,
I sure didn't.
James didn't walk, and he's like, "But I heard your dad walk. I heard Bert was an Olympic runner." Shut up. He didn't even own a car. He just ran everywhere. He was great. But James didn't have quite. He did have a lucrative career, but he wasn't as popular as his father. I think the most notable thing that James shot was probably About Schmidt, which was also done by all the people who did this.
It's a beautiful looking movie.
As well as this was.
Yeah, this is a great looking movie.
But I just wanted to point that out, that the cinematographer on this was amazing.
It's so good you almost don't think about it sometimes.
He talks about that in the commentary briefly. It's the shot that whenever McAllister is running out of the school to his car on his way to the CVS, which I think is just beautiful, so that he goes to the CVS to get flowers, chocolates, and champagne, which I was just like, that is so beautiful. Beautiful right there. I love that.
And he uses champagne later on his eye after he gets stung.
I just love that whole scene. But he talks about that shot of him coming from the school to his car. They had to change the f-stop 7 times. And he said that was probably and all the camera ops on this, by the way, were from Citizen Ruth. So see, he said Citizen Ruth was kind of like his trial run. in Nebraska. But whenever he knew that they could do everything, so he's like, election was kind of like their first